all of a sudden I start smiling. I'm holding the wheel and I had a smile. And my ego and my mind were still they were still present. So I'm like, maybe I'm smiling because I'm like, I'm in my uniform. I'm on my way back from work, and this is how I end my life, like in a split second, just like that, on my day off. But it wasn't the reason for me smiling. It was almost like I was welcoming something. Because then, as I'm heading into the wall, time really slowed down. It was like,
Hi, and welcome back to the Natalie Rustic podcast. Today's guest is Michael Benavee. He's the author of Way of the Soul Guide, Bringing Light to the Soul. He joins us today to share his near-death-like experience. Michael was involved in a horrific car accident and miraculously was able to walk away from the scene unharmed. So today we have an incredible account of a man who was no longer the same, as he calls himself a walk-in, and we are going to learn about it. So guys, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like these videos, and help share messages of truth to get my videos out there. And so without further ado, I welcome you, Mike Benavee.
okay, so I was an average person, but growing up, but yet I had a spiritual gift. I have a spiritual gift of just knowing things, kind of like very close to before they happen, and have this deep intuition, let's put it that way. And in a way, it was even scary, but I knew it was there. And throughout my youth and growing up, and I completely surrendered to the ego. I was a rebel, if you would. I was never a bad person. I never did any like bad things, but anything that the soul is not supposed to focus on, anything that was contradicting to my true life journey, I was doing many mistakes. I mean, everybody have had some sort of a past, but mine was really a twisting one. I was like, I did almost everything for a living as far as jobs, and I couldn't understand why. From like a flight attendant to a correctional officer of maximum security prison, to a cop, to a cook. I mean, everything. And all my life, I didn't realize why I was just drawn to these people and these places, and I always ended up working with people who really needed support. Let's put it that way. If there were people in the prison or hospital patients or mental hospital patients that I used to work with, like there's always I ended up with people. And I didn't realize back then. Back then, I was just thinking about the money and how I'm going to get promoted and how I'm going to buy this and buy that. Like my spiritual um, talent was hidden to a point of I forgot that it existed as I was growing up. And I remember that I was working as a maximum security prison correctional officer in the state of Illinois. And for those who don't know, a maximum security prison houses the most notorious criminals who served a minimum of 25 years and above sentence. So to say the least, it's a very dangerous place. It was a negative place. It was a place that you can be, if agony, suffering, anger, and all these emotions had a smell, that place would stink from it. And I was working there, and I remember that I was a very strong person, so I wouldn't let that get to me right there on the spot. Definitely, I was a professional doing my job, and I did that because the money was really good. And I wanted to buy my second house in America right away. And I was also a martial arts instructor, so I had a business. I was everywhere trying to make money, trying to make a name, trying to be popular. I mean, I don't even when I look back, it's almost like makes me want to giggle because it's things that I now would stay away from, like fire. But that's who I was. And one day, I was working the night shift, and we were working 14-hour night shifts because we were short in staff, and and it was rough. I had to commute to work 1 hour each direction every day, and driving in the Midwest America across these cornfields. There's nothing. There's nobody on the road. It's boring. So I remember that the Tuesday morning, was supposed to be my day off finally, so I didn't have to stay for overtime. So I was just getting excited for these 2 days off to rest. And I remember back then I even had a date planned for that night, like to come back home and just relax and live my enjoy my 30s as a single guy back then. And and there it happened. I get into my van and I drive home the same road that I usually take. And the speed limit, I don't know, you guys in Australia, you do miles or kilometers or um,
Kilometers.
kilometers. So in kilometers, it was about 130 kilometers per hour was the speed limit
Yeah,
in
right.
that road. So that's pretty fast. So I was keeping the speed limit, or maybe a little under that, like 120 I was doing. And I don't know what happened. And I don't know if I closed my eyes and dozed off for a minute, or if I was distracted, or if just something happened. I felt that my wheel just locked and I couldn't, it was stuck, like it had no hydraulic fluids in it. And my brakes also just locked. You know the feeling when your car is turned off, like nothing's operating. You have to turn the car on
Yeah.
and on. So that was it while I'm doing 120 kilometers per hour.
Oh,
So I'm like, okay, and I'm like, I wasn't even, and usually I would freak out. I would try to really like be the cop that I was, the emergency procedures operator or whatnot, and I wasn't freaking out for some reason. And that's the first thing that really got me like, what's going on here? Like, am I dreaming? Is it really happening? But then I was just all of a sudden I start hydroplaning, like I start completely spinning, and I'm looking at the speed gauge, hoping that because I'm no longer my foot is no longer on the gas pedal, I was hoping that it's going to decrease, and instead it was going up. So 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour. It was, I guess, some physics law that if the car spins like that, and I'm like, whoa, okay, so this is getting interesting. um, I remember that the second that I was starting to straighten up, like there was a lady that came from the opposite lane, and it was 7 a.m. So I could clearly see that she had two children in the back seat, probably dropping them off at school as I was leaving that
mm,
night shift. And I remember telling myself, no matter what happened, do not hit that car. If I fell asleep, it's my fault. And I knew I'm not going to make it out of this. It's like, it's going to be my fault. I'm going to pay the price. Do not hit that car. And with everything I had, I was just swerving the wheel to the right. And here it was, like it's 120 kilometers per hour, and I'm heading straight into this concrete wall or divider. There was something, there was there a concrete slab, and I'm like heading towards it. And for the first time ever, instead of even bracing or covering up, like I told you, I was a martial arts instructor, so I had those reflexes of if something coming, I gotta dodge, I gotta move, I gotta block.
mm.
And all of a sudden, I start smiling. I'm holding the wheel, and I had a smile, and my ego and my mind were still trying to, they were still present. So I'm like, maybe I'm smiling because I'm like, I'm in my uniform, I'm on my way back from work, and this is how I end my life, like in a split second, just like that, on my day off. But it wasn't the reason for me smiling. It was almost like I was welcoming something, because then as I'm heading into the wall, time really slowed down. It was like slow motion. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, am I going to hit that wall? Am I dreaming? And at that point, I'm convinced that this is just a dream. It's not happening, but I know it's happening at the same time. So it's like a lucid dream that you are knowing that you're living it. Like, you're knowing it's not a dream, but you're knowing that it feels like a dream. And then I'm hitting the wall, and I heard the loudest explosion I've ever heard in my life. It was out of this world type explosion. It wasn't even something loud. It was something terrifying. And right after this explosion, I see a white cloth. It was like a sheet, a white sheet that hanging in the wind. and I guess it was the airbag starting to deploy, but it became so like surreal, so like dramatic, and was very quiet. And then I don't remember anything. All I remember was that when my experience happened, I was upside down with the van, and it was apparently I hit the wall and I rolled over 5 times. I don't know if you saw pictures, videos from the accident itself and what happened to the car.
No. I might have
Well,
to
when you
link
see
the
it,
pictures in this video. Would that be
yes,
okay?
absolutely, yeah, you can speak to my partner, and yeah, absolutely, because people will need to realize when you see the pictures, you realize the well, they call it miracle, but I call it the experience, the walking experience that was supposed to happen. But anyways, I hit the wall and I rolled over 5 times, and I ended up in the middle of that field, upside down. The car was completely crushed. It was like it was bombed. It was there's no way there is no way in the world that somebody would survive that. But even if
Mm.
they did, it would be severely, they would not be functioning. It would be brain dead. I mean, that's according to the people that were there and the police and everybody else. They're looking at the damages. So I'm upside down and I wake up, and first of all, I remember everything that happened. It wasn't no like, oh, what happened? I'm in a different consciousness right now, all together, and I'm like, hey, where I'm at, am I dead, am I alive? No, I remembered everything. I remembered me losing control of the vehicle, me spinning, me looking at the speed gauge, the lady coming with her car, and the impact. I remember what day it was and everything. But all my senses, all of my senses completely disappeared. And the only thing that stays was my vision. And I'm talking to a point when, we usually always think, no matter how relaxed we are, we're constantly thinking as human beings. You can be somewhere in a beautiful island on vacation, having just no worries, all you care about it, but you still think about you having fun in that vacation, or you tanning, or you I don't know what, spending time with the kids, but you're still thinking. We always think, and at that moment, I had no thoughts. I just existed as a soul. And I remember that despite where I was, and I was and I was underneath, the car was completely crushing me, and I'm looking at everything, and I'm looking to see that the car itself had like, and the area that got damaged the most was the driver's area, where I was. So the car formed these like swords, like forks, like pieces of sheet metal that were just forming these forks, and they were all aiming at me. I don't feel any pain. I don't have any physical feeling. I think the thing that I was fascinated about the most was the lack of sound. And when I say lack of sound, it was nothing that you can describe and compare to this physical world. We can go to a library, back in the 80s when I was a child, like go to the libraries, you hear nothing. You only hear the lights. Like they kept it so quiet in there. And it was even 100 times more quiet than that. Like there was completely no sound, and there was no smell, and there's definitely no pain. There's nothing. It was just vision. So I tell myself, I know what happened. I don't know where I'm at right now, but I don't want this to be over. I felt the most amazing, warm feeling in the world. And it's such an irony because I'm supposed to try to get out of here. But I'm like, but I'm very, very good. And it was the same world as this one. I didn't see, my body was not flying out and I was not looking down. I was just looking at myself, but everything had a dream state, spiritual dimension to it. Like sometimes when we dream, and in my book I talk about it, all dreams are messages to the soul, it's all a soul thing. But when we dream, we sometimes dream about this world. Like we can dream that we are in our home, we can dream that we are in the street, like we still dream this world, but it's not. Like you can do anything in a dream. You can fall off a building in a dream and nothing's gonna happen to you. You can And that's what it felt. It felt like a dimension where I'm so protected. I'm invincible. I'm eternal. Like you have those feelings, like that knowledge that you have. Instead of thoughts, you have that knowledge like you're just everything. So I am as so looking outside and everything is like gray and quiet. And I'm trying to get out of the car. Okay. And the car apparently is buried and destroyed and I'm trying and there's no physical contact. Like there's nothing that I can do to change where I was. Like I couldn't get myself out. I'm looking outside the window and there she was. There was a lady dressed in black and she had this like 1800, 1700 type clothing. Like it was really, and she had a headscarf, all black. She was in her 60s. And I remember she had a slight burn scar on one of her cheeks. Can't recall which one. I think it was the left cheek. And she was just pacing outside the car, just pacing, doing nothing. And I'm like upside down. And I remember that when I engaged her, and she was the only one there. And I'm like, I couldn't speak because there's no sound, there's nothing. So all I did was waving like that with my arms for her because I was upside down. So like for her to at least talk to me, engage me, help me. And all she did was just nodding her head. No, she was just waving no and pacing back and forth, back and forth. She was very close to the car. And I remember this is the first time that I felt that something is really weird with me because old me would get very upset and agitated with that woman and probably yell and this and not understand. But then all of a sudden I didn't judge her. I was like, oh, maybe she's just worried that something's going to happen to me. Maybe she's worried that something's going to happen to her. It's gonna be dangerous. The car's gonna set on fire. I just give her all the reasons why I shouldn't, be upset and just let it go. And I remember that I told myself in the back of my mind that I'm going to close my eyes and gather some strength and get up and see, how I'm getting out of this in situation, though I'm enjoying the experience. Like I enjoy the experience. It was the most amazing I've ever felt in my life. Every now and then I will have this craving to go back there, to go back to the accident, to go back to, I don't care if it's under a wrecked car, but it wasn't about that. It was how I felt as a soul. So I closed my eyes, and then within a split second or even less, I opened them, and then everything came back into this world, just like a show on TV that you pause and replay. The sound, the smells, the smoke, the physical discomfort, screaming all of a sudden, and I'm in the same situation, just upside down, and I'm looking outside the window, and I see hundreds of people on the road, and people running to me, paramedics, and they came through the window and gave me an IV and yelled at me that, hey, don't move, don't screaming at me not to move. And I remember saying, well, I'm okay, and I was, and I'm like, I'm okay, I'm really okay, just get me out of here. And he's like, no, you're not okay. You don't understand how this vehicle looks like, and you're probably in shock, and you probably have internal bleedings, and you probably hallucinating. I was like, sir, I know what happened. I'm okay. Just get me out of here. And he was like, I can't. And I was like, why are you giving me IV through the window? He said, because we need to call the firefighters. They have to use the jaws of life, which, if any of your viewers don't know what that is, these are like powerful hydraulic devices that's supposed to rip the car open and extract people out of bad accidents. So I'm like, okay, so you gave me IV through the window, and these firefighters show up, and I just close my eyes, still thinking about the experience, missing it, trying to understand while they're cutting and hammering the car with hammers and the noise and the yelling and the screaming, and I'm just like, just get me out of here, and I want to understand what happened, and I'm completely feeling relaxed. And they get me out of the car, and all of a sudden I feel that warm feeling in my stomach, like somebody punched me. Apparently, they gave me morphine in an injection without even asking. Like I was fine, and I don't understand what they're doing, and they're cutting my uniform and putting me on a stretcher, and all these braces, and I'm trying to say I'm okay, and all I hear back is, "Don't move, don't move, don't move." So I decided to just play along with that and not get into any confrontations with them. Be like, you know what, do what you need to do. They're taking me in a stretcher. First time in my life, I'm in this ICU type ambulance, and it's like the lights and the sirens and it's the craziness. And I'm there in the back, and there's a deputy lady, a cop that was writing a report, and the paramedic who was there next to me. And I remember asking the lady, I said, "Ma'am, is it okay to ask you a question?" She's like, "It's better for you not to talk right now. We're going to the trauma room in the ER, and they're going to take care of you there." And I was like, "I insist, like, please ask me a question." She's like, "What's that?" And I asked, "Isn't it against the law for a citizen not to help another citizen in distress?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Well, that lady was there, and I don't know if she was afraid, but she never called you." And I'm like waiting for like 20 minutes. I didn't know even know I had no feeling of time, but I was just saying that. And she was like, "We were the first in the scene. There was nobody there. There was absolutely nobody." And I was like, and then I told myself, it's like, well, if you keep talking, they're gonna think you're crazy. They're gonna think you have a brain damage. They're gonna give you medication. Just I kept it to myself. Like, you know what? I'll be quiet about that. Fine. And that was miracle number one before I end this story, because the story had a miracle number two. I get into the trauma room, and I have all the medical records that I was able to pull out from this hospital, which I ended up working at years after, the same hospital that took me in. So think about it. And I go in there, and when you go to a trauma room, unlike when you go to the ER, they bring all the imaging equipment to you. It's like a VIP treatment. Like, they bring everything to you, lab. I mean, you don't leave your bed, period. And but they just came at me from all directions and scanned me from head to toe and gave me medications and took my blood, and I'm like sitting there with a bunch of friends who heard about it from the media and then came to the ER. And I remember the professor, a doctor, whoever the head of the trauma room came to me, and he said, "Listen, I've been here many, many years. I think he said 20 years, and I've never seen anything like that." And it's like, "Well, sir, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "I'm gonna have to let you go. Like, after 2 hours." It's like, "What?" He said, "You didn't even break a fingernail in that accident. Not a bruise, not a scratch, nothing." And he said most people would not only die from it, but probably being, excuse this horrible description, but even lose arms, legs. Like, it's bad. It could have been. I
Mm,
mean, but nothing. He said there's nothing. There's not even a bruise or inflammation of the skin. Like, you can get bruised up and be like, okay, you have nothing but inflammation. He said, "You sure you came out of this car?" And the cop's like, "Yeah, that's him." The only thing I had was a cut in my hand. It's in the pictures too, and they take me out. And that cut on my hand was as a result of the firefighters pulling me out of the window too quick, and my hands were spread open. So I said that had nothing to do with the accident.
wow.
And after that came the visions and more visions, and Archangel Michael's hovering above me. And I'm all of a sudden, and I didn't choose that. I wasn't going to study. I wasn't trying to say, hey, and I'm going to get close to that. I wanted nothing to do with that, because that accident gave me such an anxiety and depression, which I thought that was like, well, they call it post-traumatic stress syndrome from that and the prison itself that I worked at. But I call it the years of the spiritual transformation for the walking soul to completely make the swap. And it's torture. And the spiritual explanation for that, or the heavenly secret, is just like a baby before they're being reborn. And baby is never just born. It's a soul that's reborn. It's a constant 360 cycle. And
Mm,
before a baby is reborn, the baby is going through what? The birth canal. Both the mother and the baby are going through a very stressful time. And even medically, every childbirth considers medical emergency.
yeah.
And all the stress, and to squeeze and to suffer and to push and to scream in order for something amazing, a new type of consciousness to happen. So all these years with the accident is just the moment, the spark, the tragedy, it wasn't even a tragedy, but the event that had to happen in order to change a consciousness. We,
Mm,
in order to become souls again, we're going to have to die. You agree with me? We have
yeah.
to have a traumatic event to change consciousness. When a woman gives birth, I don't know if you're a mother or not,
Yeah.
but okay, so when you are a mother, you're actively, unlike the father contributes what they do to the physical body, but as far as the soul goes, and that's what they say, there is no love like a mother's love. As far as the soul goes, you contribute, you opening up a portal in your body, which through that portal, the spiritual soul comes into the baby. When a baby is born, we don't say that baby is 9 months and 1 day old. It's 1 day old. It's from one consciousness. You had a body with sparks of a soul to a point when the body needed to exist, and that body existed from your umbilical cord, from your placenta. You gave that body everything, not the soul. It was you. You acted like that body's soul. When the baby comes into this world, taking the first breath, making its first cry, then its divine soul comes to you. That's why people feel so connected to their babies. That babies, it's nothing. You give it the living. You give it part of its soul, and you give it everything in the body. You and you alone. That's why in the afterlife, only God forbid when people have to bury their kids, and I talk to a lot of people and I do sessions with them. At least the type of my sessions that I do is like I explain people the spiritual reasoning and make them feel better about their losses and know that their losses is a temporary one, completely temporary one. So what I'm trying to say is that only child can hear their mother voice and vice versa from the afterlife. Fathers cannot have that ability, just like they didn't have the ability to create that spiritual process. So when I had to go through the tragedy and depression and divorces and this, like my whole life was twisting. Like the ego took it and says, oh, there's a new soul coming in here. Let's make their life miserable so they don't know they're a new soul. And until the rebirth. And once you are born and you know who you are, you don't just sit there and say, hey, look at me. I'm going to sell books. I'm going to do this. No. This is not how I live my life. I take this, and my job, my spiritual purpose is to help others, is to talk to people like you so more people can view it and listen to it and know it about themselves. Live like a soul. The secret of life is to know that you are a soul. Don't let anything, and well, we have bills, we have life, we bleed, we drink. Yes, we do that, but it's temporary. It's the only thing that it's an illusion. What's the worst that can happen to a human being? We become a soul again. Oh, we die.
Right?
Okay, so but when I ask people like, what's the worst? Well, we die. I said, oh, and you become a soul again. It's like, no, we died. It's all over. And that's the problem. This is what the ego wants. The ego wants to hear we die and it's all over. But we change the terminology. The body dies. We're dying here. Everything that's born is sentenced to death, and everything that dies, quote unquote, is sentenced to live. True life, everlasting life. Once you know it, when you live here in this body, you experience what they call heaven on earth. Meaning, I don't need to be in heaven to feel part of heaven, right?
I wanted to ask you a question about, being a walk-in. So it's very evident that you are a very different person, because the person I see in front of me right now doesn't at all look like the person that you described in the very beginning when you were having all these different careers. The type of personality that you would have had then is obviously not there. What I see is a man in his full spiritual being who is guiding those on their journey to help awaken them or even guide them. So my question to you is, could you give us an idea of what an actual oversoul is, or a walk-in? And also, is it possible that anybody else can experience a walk-in themselves?
Yes. In my case of walking, and a lot of people and forums that I talk about this subject at, they think that the walk-in is a completely different soul, like a guest that does a little contract. Hey, you move, step out, I'm stepping in, and it's over. No, there's many types of walk-ins. What happened to me, and it makes me very emotional to speak about that, it's truly reconnecting with the root of my soul. I was talking about giving analogies in this physical world, Natalie, and just recently I brought up the delivery, the birth, the mother-baby connection.
Mm,
And so let's go back to that analogy and say that just like we have a physical, our body is the physical umbilical cord that's connecting us to the ground, to the earth, to
mm,
this ego, to this physical world. We need to eat, we need to sleep. If not, we're tired. We need to rest. Everything, if we hurt, we need to stay in bed. If we're sick, like everything that we do, if it's something, pleasurous, we want it now, here. And this is the physical, the whole body is like an umbilical cord that this world, this consciousness is feeding us through.
mm.
Food, money, convenience. You wake up in the morning, good feeling, massages, whatever people do to enjoy in the physical. There is an invisible spiritual umbilical cord that connects from us to the upper realms, to where we originated from.
Yeah.
And my walking soul was simply the placenta that's connecting all of us to there, is just bringing more light. It's doing just like an exchange. It's like a filtration system. See, my soul had to be walked out and re-enter from its higher part of consciousness, from the higher world, which is a different soul, because the souls are sparks of light. What are twin
Mm,
flames? They're two sparks of light that become one. They unite in two different bodies. We're not, if we were our full potential in this body, our body can only contain an amount of light. The bigger the vessel, the more light. And if you have the vessel full, you start illuminating and have an aura and halo. But you can't expand all the way out because you are in the physical world. So our light, so my light, my inner light, when my soul has no ego, and nobody's soul has an ego. There is no bad person on this earth. The ego makes them make those decisions. If you want an example, take a baby, right? The baby is born a year, two, three before the ego takes over. Those babies will never do they'll never hate. They'll never talk bad about other babies. They'll never, even if they take something from another baby, they don't see it as stealing. They see it as their need, their instinct. So what I'm saying is that I did not feel my soul purpose. I did not obey but what I was sent here from, because I know I'm an old soul. My deja vus, which if a lot of people want to know, if you have a lot of deja vus, it's actually, it's meaning you've been here. That's what it says in French too. It's like your soul have been in this situation. Now it might look like, but I don't really remember how. It was in a different body, it was in a different consciousness, but you had to be in this life journey, in these steps, in this. We all have these stops in our life journey that we
mm.
have to somehow stop when we can't avoid them. There are some things that we can avoid based on our actions. We have two journeys: the one that we pave ourselves in life based on our actions in this world. If I want to go to medical school and be a straight A student, I'm probably going to be a successful doctor. And I paved my life journey and career based on my actions. And then there is the life journey that is based on what your soul is meant to do here. You
Mm,
never chose when to be born, Natalie. Am I right? You never chose what
yeah.
family to be born to, what accent, what language. It was not, nobody asked you that before. Same as when we grow older, we don't really choose when to get married and who to get married to. We always pray and hope we find the right one. We never
Mm,
describe that right one with the name, with the religion, with an address. We just say we hope to find the right one because we know it's out of our control. Even falling in love, even when we plan to have a baby, we can all plan it. We never know when we're going to fall pregnant, and we definitely know what week we're going to have the baby, and if the baby is going to be. It's stops in our lives that are pre agreed upon in part of the soul contract, and we just have to make the best out of it and give it all the
mm,
spiritual reasoning. So I wasn't living the life that I was meant to live, and I needed a wake up call. A walk-in is
right.
no better. And when you, in the first question, a walk-in is no soul. It's a not better soul than anybody else. We're all the same. It's not even more. It is simply somebody who knows, okay, who knows how this game, this consciousness called life is, and try the best to affect, to help people to open their spiritual eyes. We all have
Mm,
that inside of us. And I give you the best last example. If you go see your favorite movie now in theater, okay? For example, my wife's favorite movie that she wanted to see on theater lately was the new Avatar. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's some people like they're hardcore fans of any type of movie series. Let's just say we'll focus on Avatar. She wanted to see it for the first time ever and excited to see what 2023 brought to Avatar. Let's just say that I already seen the new Avatar because I'm a bigger fan and I've seen it 10 times in theater. But I decided to honor my wife and go with her for the screening for her first time. I will sit there, probably just I don't want to say look bored, but I will look, but I'll know it'll be it's everything's predictable. Like I will know what's happening in that scene, what they're going to say, how it's going to end, what do you do, what the hero was supposed to do, how the plot could have gone. Well, my wife would be like, "What I'm experiencing for the first time." If it'll be a jump scare, I'll jump. If it'll be something emotional, I will cry. I will already know. So Walking Soul is somebody who's seen the movie so many times over, and they're not any better than other people, but they're coming to see, hey, I'm going to give you a spiritual explanation of what's happening. I've been on the other side. I was able to peek, over the hill and see the valley. And trust me, you have it in you too. Just make the right decision. And you do it to an extent because in the end of the day, when we live in this world, it's an individual journey, and we all have the freedom to choose right from wrong. And people like me, like other soul guides, like spirit guides, we here to not even try to influence, but try to awaken people from inside. Because when people watch your podcast and hear all these beautiful stories, it awakens something in them. And talks to the soul. You don't want to stimulate anything that has to do with their ego. You're not a reality show on TV that, oh, I want to have their money. I want to be a housewife that lives in LA. No, you don't preach that. You preach connect to your soul. There's life after death, and it does the job. We have to illuminate other people, to show them that
Mm,
they are a soul. And that's the goal. And it's very simple. We're going through some major global changes. These are spiritual changes. They are manifesting themselves to global events. And following that, there's a huge spiritual awakening as well. This is
yeah.
part of what we're talking now. And this is what a walking soul does. It's first it came to correct me. It saved me. I could have just passed and say, you know what, I failed my mission on earth of really just living like a soul. But I had to had this incident. The other soul walked out. My higher self came back. This is why walk-ins keep their memories and emotions because they don't bring a stranger. It's a piece of your soul that's coming
Yeah.
back. When we pass, we reunite with all our pieces. This is why we don't have the limitations. A lot of people need to know that not our soul as a whole coming here to this body. It wouldn't be able to consume its power. It's a
Yeah.
fragment. That's why a lot of people it's hidden in a lot of them. It's a candle. It's a source of light. Our job is to expand it, and we can expand it while we're living here. But we are also connected to something way higher than that, to the source.
That actually explains an answer to a question that I always have. And, when people die and they go to the other side and they share their story with me on the podcast, I always wonder why everything is telepathy on the other side and why when they have questions, they have the answer immediately. And you may have just answered that because you said we are a fractal of our whole self down here on earth. Our other higher self is up there. They know all while we're down here, so that when we do reunite with our whole selves, we have all the answers. And it makes so much sense now.
We have enough light to function. You want a good example for that? Look at the sun. It's a huge source of light completely away from us, but it gives us its rays and it creates lives with those rays alone. Without those rays, there wouldn't be no life. And this is part
Right.
of the ego. Like you want to look at how we have ego over animals, over
Mm,
vegetables, over trees. Think about it. I was talking to my wife the other day, and I told her about the will to give um, that we have, and it's the ego. No, sorry, the will to give against the ego versus the will to receive. A tree. A tree grows. It's a living thing. It's a tree, but it's a living thing. It's growing. It's providing us with oxygen, shade, helping the ecosystem, helping everything. The tree gives us a lot. It has the will and the need to give. The tree from us has no will to receive. It's out there in nature. When we don't mess with it and artificially just taking it and planting it indoors when it needs our light, when it needs our watering system, the tree is out there. When it rains, it gives us what it needs. The sun gives us what it needs. The animals gives us what it needs. So they're all doing it for us. Animals the same way. Animals have nothing but love. They only want to give. They give the ecosystem. They don't have. I mean, you can't come to a dog and be like, "For your love, I'm gonna give you this amount of money." And like,
Mm.
some animals. Think about a pet, God. And it's so sad. But even if you take your favorite pet or a dog and you just smack it and hit it and be mean to it, they'll still give you love. They'll still come to you and be loyal
Yeah.
to you. They'll still be loyal to you. Do you know a person that can do that? Animals, like, they give us all the ecosystem. The bees do what they do, and they don't want nothing from us. They don't want
Yeah.
anything for themselves. They're driven by angels, and they have the need to give over the need to receive.
That's
The
so
plants, the
powerful.
fruits, the vegetables, the sun, the stars, the oxygen in the air, our immune system, all this stuff, it's given us without needing to receive anything. Why can't we do the same? And once we do the same, we get into spiritual salvation. And then you
Wow.
realize that you can live in this telepathy without having a near death experience. Yes, you still be limited, because as long as we are in this physical body, there will be an ego. But the ego has to be minimized to existence only, to be
Mm.
able to be a light to others as they need us, to be able to continue generation, to be able to educate a whole new generation that we're just living a soul experience inside a body.
Michael, I need to ask the question. What is it that you do to help people? Because your mission here is to help others as a soul guide. Give us an example of some of the things that you do. What does a typical day look like for Michael?
A lot of people say, "Oh, don't talk about what you do, like you're giving, because you got to give in secrecy and everything." I dispute that, because give in secrecy if the other person you're giving does not want to know that you're giving them something. That's obviously because we have to honor people's feelings. We don't want them to feel shame. We don't want to cause them sorrow. We don't want to do good and do bad at the same time. This is the only time you give in secrecy. But other times you have to give loudly so you can inspire people to do the same.
Yeah,
If
lead
I
by
do the
example,
same,
right?
yeah, just enough that one or two out of 1,000 hear what I do, and they do the same. It's amazing. Me and my wife, we do different things. We do a lot of donations, charity. We from giving toys to children's hospitals,
Oh,
stuff that makes people happy. And that's on a daily. Occasionally. Now on a daily basis, I do the soul guide thing. I do sessions with people who are drawn to my story. My story is just an excuse. My story is just a teaser. Like, okay, wow, you had a near death walking, but it's not about that. This is the turning point. I'm talking
mm,
about the point. I'm talking about what I do. So I give people spiritual advice. I help them connect with them. I get into this trance when I do sessions with them. I don't do psychic readings or talk to my loved ones on the other side, because, well, I myself personally decided not to do it, though I've done it in the past. I have the abilities, but instead I do psychic for the livings. I read their soul, and I kind of make some adjustments and speak to them and give them motivation. If people are mourning, I give them the hope, and you see how their face is changing. And I've done always over 350 people in the past 6 months that I talked to one on one from all over the world, from
incredible.
remote villages in India and some places in Africa when the power went off while I was doing Zoom meeting with them every 2 minutes. We had to like reconnect the power there to give
Yeah.
spiritual help. And I do it, if people want to donate, when people do donations, it's donation based. I don't charge any fee
Oh,
for any of my sessions.
wow.
There is no fee. No, absolutely. People can pay a penny, or sometimes, most of the time, people don't even pay period because they can't afford it. I still do
Yeah.
sessions. And what I do with these donations is me and my wife, we just give clothing to families that don't have it. Like I said, hospitals,
Oh,
some money and stuff. So I try to do well. Now, the place that I work, I also work in a hospital, so I deal with a lot of sick people, and I smile at them every day. My job is to sit there and smile to them and speak to them and direct them. So I do things that connects to souls. Like, and I also believe that I don't choose and pick what I do. It's like once you believe and know your soul journey, let it lead you. You know, like let the wind take you. Be drifting, like live your life like you're drifting in the wind, like a leaf. You know, but like it's the best way. It's nothing is manufactured, nothing is forced. The best choices are the choices you just accept. You know, even if not good. I don't even say bad things because there is no bad in this world. Just like cold, there is no such thing as cold. Cold is the absence of heat, and bad is just the absence of good. When there's no good, the opposite can develop. You know, the energies. It's
Mm,
all energies. So I try to be spreading good, be around good, and do good. I do it for my own soul because our individual journey. The collective can be part of our journey. They can influence our journey, like even our kids and husbands, and we influence their journey. We're just
yeah.
characters in their own movie, but the movie is ours. You know, we don't. We were born. We're not born together. Even twins are born apart, 1 minute, 2 minutes. But we
Yeah.
also we don't cross over together. We cross over alone. And the afterlife for each and every one of us is individually different. Look at all these NDE accounts. I mean, yeah, they can tell you a lot of similarities in the phenomena, but everybody's story is pretty much different. They're all in a
Mm,
different scenery. They're only because it's individual story, just like in this world. But the more spiritual things, the more awareness you have here, you're going ready over there. There's like a spiritual backpack that I stuff
yeah.
all my good deeds, and it's small. You can just smile at somebody in the street, and it might seem like, okay, who cares? Okay, so you smile at somebody. It's normal. It's this. No, you don't know. In the afterlife, it creates earthquakes from the
Oh,
power of these amazing deeds, and it's here we can't translate it because of the ego. Again, if I'm a millionaire, if I'm Elon Musk, I will not give all my money away. I will not even give half to somebody I don't know because there's still something in me that says it's mine.
mm,
It's mine.
right.
It's not just only good to talk about anti-ego. You got to live it.
Yeah.
Live it.
Such a
So
powerful message. Could you give us an idea of what you do? So you mentioned that you don't do it psychically, you do it to the person who's needing that help. So what would you do? Would you do like, would you say past life regression for their own soul type of work?
I, to be honest with you, Natalie, and this is one of the things that have been happening to me that's also another proof of the divine intervention in this. It's like I'll talk to people, and most of them, of the 100 people I have, are members of my the followers of that Facebook page, so they can vouch. Like I would talk to people. I don't know any. Like my wife does not give me any background story, even though some of them write a lot at times. I don't
Mm,
want to come with this prejudgment of like, okay, I know. Let's make a plan. No, I just sit. I hear a name. I talk to them, and as they speak, I connect to their either to their issue, to the problem. I connect to their pain in their eyes. Usually, I connect to their I call it spiritual insecurity. And all of a sudden, I get into this trance, and I speak and speak and speak and speak, and it resonates with them, and I see it on them, and I don't even know, and you can ask all of them. I tell them I remember their story from the first letter to the last, but I remember nothing from what I'm telling
wow.
them in the end of the sessions. I recommend them to record. Some of them record, and those who don't record, they can talk to me 2 days after. It's like, remember what you told me that was amazing that I started crying? It's like, I don't.
Incredible.
It's really the inner me is speaking, and then there's like a curtain. So it's not because it's not coming like my whole knowledge, my whole wisdom, quote unquote, that I put on Facebook about secrets of creation. These are my individual insights that were inherited to me. I never chose them, never opened a book in my life about the subject.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And it's all in here, or in here, shall I say. And when I speak to people, I get into this, and then I'm like, I'm saying this, and I even tell my wife, it's like, wow, I said something really important, but I don't know what it was. Like I really, really don't remember. But all of them, the feedback so far, they're all feeling like that it changed something that deep there. So, and this
Yeah.
is what I do. This is my mission. I can do other things, but I will not, stay away from my main goal, which is to be the soul guide. It's exactly what that means, to guide souls, to explain them about the ego, to explain like, okay, your life is like that because you're special, or you lost your child because your soul was able to take it. no other
Mm.
soul, and nothing is lost. It's nothing is against you. It's all for you. All these terminologies, and I elaborate on that, and and I give them a lot of examples, and again, I can't even react these sessions with people because I don't know what I tell, but it
Yeah, so
works.
you would have a session with someone, you would get into trance, you would share their messages, and then when they would have a conversation with you, Michael, afterwards, you would not have any recollection of what was just spoken about.
I
Amazing.
know everything about them. I'll remember their story almost to the details, like the listening thing. But when I speak, it happens with my wife too. I need to get into this trance, and it's I never control it. Sometimes, like I'll have a session, and I'll tell you like behind the scene thing that I'm supposed to have a session, and I tell my wife, I said, I only will speak to people who are drawn to me, and I'm drawn to them. I'm not a
Mm,
business. I'm not, and even
yeah,
the book that we're trying to sell is to inspire people. So if I need to buy it, I need to sell it to inspire people. Well, so be it. But I don't go and like, oh, buy my book. Yeah, if you're supposed to buy my book, you buy my book. If you're supposed to write me and have a session with me, you'll have a session with me. And this
yeah,
is how I see things, because the people that I'm drawn to, and like I have a certain amount of pre um it's almost like premeditated people that I'm supposed to meet, and I'm waiting on them.
yeah.
Some people, like I really feel like, hey, I tell my wife, I said I don't feel like I'm supposed to connect with them,
Mm,
and I'm willing to help everybody. Like it's not about not wanting to help. I was like, and then end up like the people really just want something that I don't even offer and stuff. Like I have this intuition, like, and then some people write me in. I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to help. And I'm going to tell you, there's this lady. I'm not going to obviously mention names. I'm about to do something that I've never done before. That I'm actually still hesitating and praying about it myself. That
mm,
I have from the simplest of spiritual issues to people who themselves think they're experiencing a demonic possession, and they have no other person to help them, and they turn to me. And the way they
mm,
were writing it, I know, like I told my boss, like I'm supposed to handle it. Like I want to handle it. If I ever handle it, what I'm supposed to handle. It's like, well, demonic possession. Be careful what you believe in. It. What is? I was like, I believe in everything that has to do with the soul. And if
mm,
people want to, they call it demonic possession. It sounds scary because all the movies and stuff. But it's simply a bad. It's another equivalent for walking, but it's not a good
yeah,
walking. If walking is
right.
to, if walking is to come in, take over a body to improve, it's your root. Other walking is a soul that got lost, that needed a group, that needed to be part of this human experience again and
Mm,
intrude. A soul can
yeah,
also intrude. When it happens, sometimes an angel can, and it happened to me, and it's in one of the chapters in my book, got into a person in a supermarket. They borrowed a people's bodies for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes to test you, to test any of us, and then they go back. This person came to me. There's millions of people in the supermarket. Me and my wife are shopping. I never hardly go outside, but when she really needs my help, I go, and I'm trying to think how I'm doing something good in any situation. This
yeah.
person walks to all these people to me, handing me a flip phone, saying, "Excuse me, sir, can you fix my lighting here?" And it's like, like the flip phones from like 20 years ago, like nothing close to a smartphone, nothing close to, and I don't really know how to operate it. And he's sitting there, he's
Mm,
like, "Listen, I'm supposed to get an important call. Help me with that." Now, the easiest way, and I know for a fact that old me or most people be like, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to, I don't know how to fix it." Like, there's a story here. Like, I don't know, I really didn't know how to fix it. I was standing there. He was standing there looking at me, just like checking me, testing what I'm about to do. And I'm sitting there battling with this phone, trying to read because his brightness was so low, so I couldn't fix it even if I wanted. But I'm clicking button and this, and all of a sudden I was able to do it. He took it, closed the phone, looked at me, and was like, "You don't realize what you just did." My wife witnessed the whole thing. He's like, "Thank you. You don't even realize what you just did." Turned around, walked away, vanished. And the feeling,
wow.
not because he said that of the words, I mean, it can just be a random person, but the feeling that I had instantly into my soul, I froze, and I told my wife, that wasn't a person. There
Mm,
was a test. There was a
wow.
test. Yeah, he could have stopped anybody in his path. He just came to me. And he was waiting patiently to see what my ego, because I was in a rush. I was
Yeah.
shopping. I needed to get my day going, but no. He needed to come and present me with this issue. And this is why I tell people, don't look for supernatural sights in this world. In this world, we have the physical goggles, not the spiritual goggles. The only thing spiritual we have here is our actions, our feelings, things that you can't see, things that money can't buy, things that we cannot control. Learn how to control it. Everybody knows what good is supposed to feel like. We all know what good is. We all try to, as people, avoid bad. We don't want to just hurt people from our nature. We do, but in between, there's people that the ego is consuming them, distracting them from their purpose. And they live their life 9 to 5, making money, buying houses, doing this, doing that. They pass, and okay, what have you achieved? Have you fulfilled your goal? Was your goal just to get rich? Was your goal just to do this and acquire that? Fine, it's a sad goal because it's not the real goal. So I tell people, don't go out of your way, but opportunities will present themselves daily, and they do, especially the more you live like a soul, you will encounter more soul-like things.
Yeah, beautiful. I really appreciate you joining the podcast with me and sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge, and just giving us advice on how we can better ourselves. I really appreciate
Yeah, and I want
that.
to say, and if you don't mind, Natalie, I'd say that the book I was talking about, I don't know if you can see it or not. It's The Way of the Soul Guide.
Yeah.
It's an Amazon. Yeah, it's pretty much my story in few chapters, and it's a lot of insights, a lot of subjects that we spoke about and more. How to communicate with angels, how to get rid of the ego's hold, and a lot of insights about my life and about my spiritual transformation. They can
Yeah.
help a lot of people who are meant to read that. So
Well, thank you. I will link the book in the description bar below for those of you watching if you would like to purchase it yourself. Where can we find this book?
we can find it on Amazon, both in
Amazon.
Kindle, ebook, or paperback. Yeah,
Beautiful. And
that's
for
what I
the
was about to
viewers
say.
watching who may want to get in touch with you to get some guidance, where would they find you?
Through my Facebook page or my email, anybody from anywhere with any financial ability, with no financial ability, it doesn't matter. It's not a business. If you're drawn to this video, if it resonates with you on a spirit soul level, rather not just curiosity, but more of a you know that your soul's supposed to be consulting with mine, then I'm here for you. I'm here for you anytime.
Beautiful.
With love.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. And one last thing, Michael, if you could please
Man,
share a positive message as a takeaway for the viewers watching.
please, please, please adopt the need to give over the need to receive in every little thing in life, both verbally, spiritually, materialistically. You can practice this anywhere. All it's going to do is going to enlighten you in ways you've never believed or known existed.